Hello, and welcome to yet another episode of Cooking with Corona. Although, of course, we're not actually cooking with Corona, we are in fact cooking during the pandemic of COVID-19. As of course, as you're suffering with it, in which case I suppose we're cooking with Corona in both respects of the connotations within that sentence. And my, how long it has been! It may be by the time I've put this video up, and I've made the mincemeat video, but it really has been a while. I regret to say that I made a large number of recipes on one card, a memory card. Took it out, maybe some dust got on it or something, but I cannot for the life of me upload it to my laptop. I can't tell you how frustrating it is. And they were all going to be my cooking in semi-lockdown ones. If I find a way of getting them up, I will do it. But we're back in lockdown now, so it works nice and symmetrically. Today's audio juice from the title is going to be a nice little steak and kidney pudding, but it's not steak and kidney pudding as you might normally have heard of it, because I'm going to use lamb today, and lamb's kidneys and lamb suet. I've got just over £1 worth of a shoulder of lamb here, and I'm going to cut it into little pieces. I'm sure you don't need to know what a cut up a piece of meat looks like, but still, here it is. Seems I overindulged a little on the lamb. It seems I got one off the bone, one on the bone. And since I've managed to cut the stuff off the bone, I'm going to make some lamb stock later, right here. That'll be in a future recipe. Right, that's the steak then. Next, the kidneys. You should be able to peel it away relatively easy in a similar fashion to cellophane. Be careful to cut away any veins or valves. This skin, for instance, needs to be cut away. I don't know if you can see it. That's the sort of thing that needs to be cut. And this I'm going to use as the suet. Let's very gingerly cut away the skin that's connecting it. I'll have to cut that away too. And this, or part of this, I'm going to cut into pieces to make into the suet. One of the things I don't like about modern suet is that it gets very dry. You buy it in a box covered in flour. If you have a family member that's on a gluten-free diet, that is a nightmare. But this is just the right thing. Now, you cannot easily obtain ox's kidney. And of course, ox's kidney is what's used in most steak and kidney pies and puddings, but they don't usually come with the fat outside that you've made into suet anymore, but you can do it with lamb, and that's what I'm doing today. See again how there's this little valve here. I'm going to cut that away. I'm going to get 2 more of those, or rather 5 more of those. I'm making 2 puddings, as you can see. This, when cut to pieces, is going to make the suet. Now you can see that I've cut each of these 3 kidneys in half. I'm going to do it again. Next I need to cut or shred this. It's got a little bit hard in the fridge, but that's going to be my suet. I was reminded of when I first learnt the word suet when I was a child reading Alice in Wonderland. In that poem, "You are old, Father William." "You are old," said the youth, "and your jaws are too weak for anything tougher than suet. Yet you finished the goose with the bones and the beak. Pray how did you manage to do it?" "In my youth," said his father, "I took to the law and argued each case with my wife, and the muscular strength which it gave to my jaw has lasted the rest of my life." You'll see down here how I'm dicing it into little pieces. So, for instance, the outer skin of this thing needs to be pulled off because it'll give a nasty taste of that. This really is like cellophane. That sort of thing is the sort of thing you don't want. Right, now because I've got a larger quantity of the stuff, well, than I realised I had, I'm going to show you how to do the pastry for the steak and kidney pudding in its gluten-free form. In fact, I have made the gluten-free version first, because it's very good if you're making for a gluten-free person not to contaminate anything. I'm even using a separate sieve in order to measure it out. Can't take any chances. It's a very loosely pursued recipe from Rosemary Cottage Clinic website. They use wheat-free white bread flour. I'm using gram flour. Gram flour, by the way, is chickpea flour. You find it in a lot of Indian recipes, or at least most famously onion bhaji. It's what makes it nice and crispy. This is more of a tea strainer than a sieve, what I'm using here, but no, needs must when the devil drives. Grease the bowl in which you'll place the pastry for the pudding with either butter or dripping, as you would for normal pastry. 140 grams of suet. This is closer to 200, but never mind. And now we need 8 tablespoons full of water, which we're going to chill. There's one. Now here I have some baking powder, and I shall need to put that in to help it rise a little bit. And then I've got this most wonderful stuff called xanthan gum, which I'm hoping will act in place of egg to help to bind the quantities together. Something you'll find with gluten-free dough, by the way, is that it is not elastic in the same manner as normal pastry, so just beware of that. You just need to mix this stuff together, this powder, this gum, and this flour, and once that's done, I need to add the water, I think, next. A little salt, but not too much. And now this is not mentioned in the original recipe because it assumes that you're using beef steak, but since this is lamb steak, I am going to add a little rosemary to it. Maybe a little thyme. Now I've got those herbs together. Here is the suet, and the water is here. Mix together. Maybe a little more water, actually. Oh, now I'm mixing it together with a wooden spoon. You can definitely smell that it's chickpea. The scent is coming right through there. Very sweet scent. Now I'm going to roll it out. Now get the dough out in order to roll. Next the onion. Chop the onion in more or less the same way as the normal one. Add a little of the gram flour to the mixture of onions and kidneys and steak while it's frying. That'll help it brown more easily. You can see what I'm doing here. There. Then add the 150 millilitres of this red wine. Same quantity of stock. Season it. Right, first thing we need to do is use either some onion or shallots is what it calls for the recipe I'm following. However, I've got these green spring onions here and I need to use them up, so I'm going to chop up. Well, look how small they are. So I think I'm going to chop up all 6 of them. Maybe add half an onion as well. Now I'm just going to put these in to this mixture of oil and butter here. That is going to be the inside of the dish. The recipe I'm following doesn't call for this, but I'm going to put this quarter of a mushroom in as well. By the way, I chopped up 2 rather shriveled cloves of garlic as well, just to add it a bit of a kick. Now I'm going to measure out 285 grams or 10 ounces of self-raising white flour. Add a little rosemary and also some thyme to the flour. The thyme is my personal preference. Oh, and add the plain flour to the mixture of vegetables. That's probably more than was needed, but who cares? Add some salt and some of the same rosemary and thyme that you added to there, just a pinch. And season it further. Of course, the pepper that I'm using is mixed with turmeric, but who cares, it'll give an extra kick. Now add around a third of the lamb that you cut earlier to the shallots and onion, in my case the mushroom. Same quantity of these lovely kidneys here, which you can see I've halved and skinned. Set aside once browned, and then add the rest. 150 millilitres of our red wine. Same quantity of beef stock. Insert like so. Very well. Let's put this into the pudding basin. Hope there's not too much of it and it'll all fit in there. If it is, I'm a little bit stuffed. I'm just move you so you can see what I'm doing. And obviously the juices will go in as well. Here is the top of the crust placed on the pudding basin. Grease the pudding basin like this, so that the thing will slip out quite easily once it's finished steaming. Put your flour, baking powder, rosemary, thyme mixture in here, and here is the chopped up suet. Put that in, mix all together. Put a splash of water in there as well. Give it a stir. Okay, very sticky this dough, but hopefully I can get it into this greasy basin and it will slip out. So, here goes. Now we'll put this concoction in this frying pan here, the beef and the actual steak and the kidney, and the mushrooms and the shallots and all in there. Here, as you can see, I've just bundled this up in some greaseproof paper and some string. I'm just doing the same thing to this other one. That is the wheat-free pudding. This one is going to be the one that has normal flour in it. But I'm going to bind them both in the same way. So just bear with me. It's on the floor, by the way, because up here everything's cluttered. Now that's in. I'm going to put the lid on, switch it on, and leave it for about 2 hours. But I'm going to keep a close eye on it because I do not want to simply evaporate the water. I'll need to renew it if that happens. Right, I think it's been 2.5 hours now that that's been in there. Right, well, I'll need it to stand. I'm going to undo this string and the parchment. You have an overwhelming desire to see what undone parchment looks like. Here it is. Take back the greaseproof paper. Yeah, it's starting to ooze out the sides a little bit, unfortunately. Should have greased this paper, actually. Right, now we get the pudding and we're going to overturn it onto a plate that I've got right here. Little piece of the crust came off the paper. Let's try that, just to see whether it works. Hope it does, 'cause I'm not going to be able to put it back in there now that it's... Look. Now, let's see little by little if I can ease it off. Well, actually, this is going to be the serving plate. I've got some peas in the oven, roasting in the oven. I've got some mashed potatoes. I believe I've got a recipe for mashed potatoes before, so I don't need to show it again. If I haven't, then by all means guess how to mash them. Look, it's slipped off more easily than I thought. Well, I'll slice it then. Here's some of the steak and kidney gravy that was left over. Okay, over to the table. We're at the table. So, here's the potato. The peas, by the way, they were frozen. A little bit of brown sugar, a little bit of seasoning, butter. Oh, they're lovely. The recipe I followed for the peas, by the way, said that you do it over the in a saucepan, but it works for doing it in the oven as well. Now at last the pudding. Oh. Just when I thought I was terrified because the lid came off. I thought it was going to crumble, but try some more. Oh. Wish you could have seen the... Well, I think you've seen the orange dumplings, haven't you, that I made with the duck, but it's not quite the same. I made some of that Scottish dish, doughboys, but they're on that memory card that I just cannot operate. Anyway, that is the steak and kidney pudding in its normal form. Over to the gluten-free now, I guess. Very well, let's get rid of the string and the paper in the same way as we did for the earlier one. Hopefully it will not crumble in the same way that the other one did. Oh, if anything, it's risen better. I might add that I had it in the water for longer than the earlier one. Longer the better, really. Alright. Okay, you didn't see this, but it almost... I put it down here, it almost slipped off and it didn't fall. So the crust is... the underside of the crust, the lid is actually better. It's fixed on more tightly than the one that was not gluten-free. The question is, will it taste as good or will it even be better than the one that was not gluten-free? As it so happened, I wasn't able to... well, I did take the pudding off the plate. You can see here. Not quite as presentable as the earlier one, although it almost looks like a whole pudding itself. You may have seen it there with the peas. No. But we'll see how it tastes. The lid kind of detached as I was turning it over, so it crumbled a bit, but let's just taste. Mmm. Mmm. Nice. Bit dry. It's lovely. And we need some extra gravy for it, but it's still very nice. The good thing about this method is you can also use it as your method for Christmas pudding. I'm going to show you, before I go, a sweet method of this. But that is both steak and kidney pudding, savoury version, successfully done. So, ta-ta! Right, now we're here, I'm going to show you how to make a sweetened version of suet pudding. It's often known as spotted dick. Probably, although in the Houses of Parliament they reportedly changed it to spotted Richard, I believe it's because dick is a dialectical word or regional word for dough, so don't worry about that. Spotted dick then. Just bring the suet in the same way that you did before with the savoury one, put it in a bowl. 3/4 of a cup, or 177 millilitres of this gluten-free flour, which is actually coconut in my case. You can use sweet rice, but I'm taking a gamble. Similar amount of corn flour. Not too much caster sugar, because I'm just going to put in it's a little more than half a tablespoon, but I think the sweetness is going to be there in the coconut flour that I just used. So we'll put that in, and then in the same way that we used baking powder for the savoury version, we'll put some in again there, same kind of amount, little teaspoon. Teaspoon of xanthan gum. Now we mix that all together. Stir with a wooden spoon first of all. Next, we blend. Add an egg to it. If you're working as a sort of, well, you can't really use a vegan-friendly form of this unless you use vegetarian suet, then just use more xanthan gum. I've added an egg, almost like 2 eggs really. This is a double yolked one. Again, a little under 200 millilitres of milk. $117 that's supposed to be. In that goes. I know it looks as though I just poured that all over the hob, I assure you I did not. And we mix that in too. Just going to bung in a load of currants. I've not measured them out, but they should be alright. Just 2 fistfuls. Very poor and crude measurement, but fistfuls are fine. So those are raisins. Here are same portion, 2 fistfuls of currants in the same way. Wish I had some sultanas, but alas I do not. Add some lemon zest if you want. I don't want. Grease in the same way as before. Bung the mixture into that bowl in the same way as the savoury. Here's the pudding basin covered in both greaseproof paper and tin foil this time. Put that in the saucepan. The water has already been put in. I'll put in a little more water and I'll leave it for just over an hour. Let's take this off then. Water's nearly gone now. Let's leave it to stand. Alright. Spotted dick then. Let's try this. Lovely suet pudding when it's sweet. Oh, lovely. Mmm. Hmm. Wanted to make custard. Couldn't find vanilla. serve it with custard or cream. That's even better than it is now. Lovely. This, by the way, is how you'd make treacle pudding or syrup pudding. Just add that in place of, just add that on the top while you're cooking it, or rather the bottom of the basin. You can add chocolate chip if you like, instead of currants. But anyway, in any case, that is suet pudding, both savoury and sweet, normal and gluten-free. I think it was very nice. And by the way, you can add the contents of my Christmas mincemeat recipe in there if you want to make Christmas pudding. Christmas pudding isn't usually made with suet, but you can make it that way. Because much like mincemeat itself, it was traditionally something you just kind of flung together. So I proved that it can in fact be made with a lamb suet as well as beef. Enjoy it yourself if you wish, and if you don't wish, just watch me eat it instead. Thanks a lot. Ta-ta! I'm using more or less two recipes, both that of Delia Smith and Olive Magazine, a kind of hybridised fusion of the two. It's supposed to have mushrooms in it. I honestly thought I had mushrooms, but it seems I don't. But we will be having onion. It says I just use the one onion, but due to the size of these ones, I'll use this half of a tiny one and this average size one, and that makes one. I don't think this is a particular scene for vegetarians, beyond the fact that you can get vegetarian suet these days, and you can also use corn mince if you really like, but oh, I do hope this works. It probably shan't. Never mind, have a laugh if it doesn't at my expense. Now the first thing you'll need is not actually the steak at all. We are in fact making steak and beer pudding. Although, of course, being me, it is in fact not ale, but ginger beer. So it's steak and ginger beer pudding. I do hope it works. If it doesn't, who cares? You can have a laugh at my expense. I've got two pudding basins here, because the quantity of the steak is such that I fear I may have to put it into two. I hope I shan't, but we'll see. Hello, and welcome to yet another episode of Cooking with Corona. At long last. Hello, and welcome to yet another episode of Cooking with Corona. That is, of course, unless... Although, of course, we're not actually cooking with Corona, we are, in fact, cooking during the pandemic. Sure you don't need to know what... Sure you don't need to know what a cut-up a piece of meat looks like, but still, here it is. Alright, this really should have stayed for about an hour, but I don't really have the time, so, well, no, maybe I will leave it. Alright, now, here's some nice hot water that I've got here, boiling hot water. I'm going to put that straight in. So, observe, string is a bit damp, but just about stayed intact. Wish it wouldn't though, I need it to break now. Right, little bonus recipe coming up here, and this is the sweet version of suet pudding, sometimes known as spotted dick. I know that in Scotland some mad, I think it was some... and we get it all over the place.